Thank you to the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library for hosting us here tonight. Thank you all for coming. I'm amazed that this room is full. I'm pleased. These are some of my teachers. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. That's thanking my teachers. You'll find out more about me as time goes on this evening, but Russell Paul wrote the book, The Yoga of Sound. When I was first thinking about learning this chanting, long story, but I bought the book, and I realized you cannot learn chanting from a book. So I found him, and I studied Sanskrit with him, the pronunciation of Sanskrit. So that was really momentous for me. Yeah, it was a really blessing. Shantala Sri Ramaya continues to be my current teacher. She's in the tradition of the Chalakari brothers, which is a very old oral lineage from the south of India. And I thank all the scientists and researchers that helped me put these slides together today, because I didn't draw them, okay? I didn't draw some of the pictures. So just what's going to happen here tonight is welcome, right? Introductions. I have probably forgotten most of your names, except the people that I already knew, because there's a lot of people here, and some of you I haven't met yet. The talk will be around 45 minutes. We'll hold question and answers until after the talk. And the guidelines of this presentation are that it's going to be mostly a talk. You will not be expected to chant. This is not a chanting class, okay? So relax. I'm the only one doing the chanting, like it or not. And then afterwards we'll have some Q&A. So yeah, I told you a little bit about myself. You'll find out more as the evening goes on. I have been doing this type of chanting for almost 4 years, not quite. So the first type of Sanskrit, there are lots of Sanskrit, like what brought us here today, right? I can tell you that what brought me here today, when I think, drill down, is curiosity. Because without my curiosity, I would never have started this process, right? It was something made me curious. And we don't know yet what part of the brain is responsible for curiosity. They're still working that one out. And I suspect that there's some curiosity in each of you. Whether you're just curious about RVML, there's something happening tonight, let's go there and see what it is. Or you're curious about chanting, or you just needed to, whatever. Your spouse brought you here, I don't know. But there's some curiosity. So we share that. And the topic is, Vedic chanting as it relates to the brain. And first of all, what do we mean by Vedic chanting? That is kind of a big cauldron. There's lots of things in there that people think of related to Vedic chanting. Is it singing? Is it kirtan? Is it japa? Is it parayana? Do you know what those words mean? Okay, we'll talk about singing. We had a lovely Christmas party here. Christmas carols with strangers. It was, we knew the melody, the rhythm, the tune, etc. Lots of camaraderie, good feeling, right? So that's singing. Everything else here is related to Sanskrit. Some people take some Sanskrit words and phrases and make songs out of them, and make Western songs out of them. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. Okay, kirtan. Kirtan is a call and response. So perhaps some of you have experienced that. Often there's instruments around, the musicians call a phrase out, and then everybody in the crowd, repeats the phrase, and it goes on and on. It can go on for an hour, hours. Sometimes people start swaying around and kind of dancing and doing things. It can take you out of your, space, into a different space, which is, it's lovely, but that's not what we're talking about here, okay? Japa. Japa is what we do when we repeat mantras, 108 times or less, however many times, thousands of times. And we typically think of, in our culture, in our Western culture and society, we think of mantras as short. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, or Om Ganganapataye Namaha, over and over and over. And what that does is leads us to a place of perhaps a meditative kind of stillness inside. So when we stop the chanting of the japa, we're dropped into a different place. It's a beautiful practice. And that's what I do with mantra meditations on monthly in Jacksonville. I bring my bowls and we do that, and it's a great thing. And parayana. Anybody hear that word before?
5 minutes ago.
Okay, thank you. You heard me, I'm loud enough. Parayana is when we take and chant longer sections of the Vedas and the Vedic texts. Okay? So the Sahanavavatu is considered a peace chant, what I chanted in the beginning. Okay? Typically, we don't chant that 108 times. That's a beginning chant, that's an ending chant to something else in the middle. It sets the tone for our evening together, right? And that might be considered a parayana. Some chants go 20 minutes, right? So the Rudram is a long chant to Shiva, right? And the whole thing, to chant the whole thing once takes 20 minutes. There's nothing in that chant that is repeated. There's no refrain, there's no rhythm that goes on and on. It is 20 minutes of distinct chanting, of page to page. So that's kind of like the edge of what we're talking about here, okay? I've learned the Rudram, but it takes a while. It takes some dedication, it takes practice, and I don't have it memorized, okay?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, some people do. All right. So all of those things kind of fall under chanting, but basically what we're talking about is going to be mostly this and this, okay? And there are some things that happen here that happen inside our brain. So my curiosity, I started doing a lot of mantra, and then I thought, I know there's more to it than this. I hear all different types of chanting. What's that about, right? And then my teacher shows up, right? When the student is ready, the teacher appears. So Shantala was there. I connected with her and started learning longer sections. Some of them were this long, some of them were this long, some of them are pages long. So I started learning them, and as I started learning them, I realized that something was happening to me inside. When you do the japa, mantra, you're going and going and going, and you drop into a place of stillness. But when you're doing this kind of chanting, and it's not a chanting that nobody really wants to listen to, I would think, something happens, and you become all these, I noticed things happening, and I wanted to know what that was. So there I am calling, my naturopathic friend and chiropractor, trying to figure out, how can I figure out, I need an MRI on my brain because I know something's happening there. And I'm serious, I was calling people because you can't call your doctor or order me up one, Mm-mm. And we don't live in a place where there's a university, medical university. So hope springs eternal. Yeah. Anyway, this is basically what I said before. We're chanting portions of the texts, right? And in a lineage that's thousands of years old, which has been transmitted orally. This lineage is from the south of India. I mentioned the Chalakari brothers. The oral transmission happened for, people don't know, 4,000 years, 6,000 years. I've heard as old as 10,000 years. So written, think of humanity, right? We didn't start writing things down until much later in time. So what we have now is written down in Sanskrit language, but that was encoded, more recent in our history, right? So all of this has been an oral transmission. So the benefits of chant, and these are benefits, things that I've experienced. Okay? Physical, mental, and spiritual. Physical benefits, the big thing is sharpening of your senses. In other words, there's some sort of an awareness that happens. You go out for a walk in the woods, and I feel different. I'm breathing differently. I know that's because of the chanting. That's the only thing that's changed. Two of the biggest things for me are this: mental decluttering and creativity. So after I chant, what would happen is I would feel this very calm alertness, not a stillness where I want to meditate, but an awareness and an alertness, but calm, and I could just focus on things. Like all of a sudden, my mess around my desk doesn't bother me anymore because I know the next thing. It's a clarity that happens, an acuity. And, some of these things kind of run into different categories here, mental or spiritual. Patience, that's a big one for me, anyway. I could be more patient with myself inside. So all the inner things that I was experiencing may or may not be apparent to anybody around me, but they're huge for me. It makes a difference to me. And another big one is, of course, I think we all do this for the sense of connection. We want to connect with something that's bigger and outside of ourselves. And by doing that, we connect with ourselves inside in a much healthier way. So there we go. Big stuff. So, okay, yeah. So I was calling around, how am I going to get, I need this measured. I need to know what's happening. Well, okay, then I realized I don't need to do that because people have done it already. Okay. Yes. I don't know if anybody here is aware of this. Neuroscientist James Herzl did exactly what I was hoping to do. Okay. He took functional MRIs, brain scans of Sanskrit pundits. Pundits are scholars. And these scholars were chanting portions of the Krishna Yajur Veda, right? And they had learned this for forever, right? They had many, many years of experience of learning it. And then he took another sample and compared to people similar people, same age, all males, and same orientation, all right-handed. So there are many similarities, and studied their brains. The differences between people who had been chanting for many years and people who have not chanted. Okay, and he found that there was increased gray matter in the people, and like 20% more in people who have been chanting more. Okay, so okay, that's good, right? We talk about oral transmission. It's an intensive verbal memory training. So there's something going on inside that things are clicking, right? And wonderful things happen. So basically, chanting Sanskrit texts leads to significant structural changes in the brain. Okay. This was in the New York Times last week. They did a little thing on a little blip on brain health. Yeah. And this is question number 1. When does your brain stop changing? In utero, in your 20s, in your 60s, or never? Never. We know that now, right? So there's hope. So here we are, brain pictures. This is where this is the prefrontal cortex. This is the whole cerebral cortex. That's the gray matter that covers a lot of our brain. And 2 parts of our brain govern much of our mental life, right? So this part, and then the limbic system. And this is where we're processing information a lot, all our sensory information. The limbic system is where the amygdala is. And that's our emotional reaction, fight or flight area, right? So the reptile brain, anybody hear that? It's kind of like in here, in the brain stem. It's deeper in the brain, right? So I don't know, I like brain stuff. So how does the brain change? Well, another study showed that enriched environments, for example, musical training and experience, and discrimination training could be used to counteract or prevent the effects of degraded sensory inputs on mature brains. Mature brains are generally after 25 years old, not 65. Okay? So our brain changes. And physical training and discrimination training are big now. Another term that's bandied about a lot these days is neuroplasticity, right? Our brain's ability to learn and adapt. Functional plasticity, this is cool. It's like when there's brain damage for some reason, a brain injury or a stroke or something, the brain rewires itself so that other parts of the brain can take over whatever was lost. Nice. Structural plasticity is more what we're talking about here. The brain's ability to actually change its physical structure as a result of learning. Okay? So here we are. We're learning. We're changing our physical structure. Okay? How are new neural pathways formed? Repeated in response to repeated thoughts and behavior. That can be positive or negative. Right? If you learn a new, like little kids, they learn a new bad word. Oh my gosh, they love it over and over and over. That's a brain change, right? Yeah. But in this case, hopefully we're talking about positive changes with our chanting. And of course, there are neurotransmitters involved. Dopamine, right? We scroll on our cell phone, after 6 seconds, we get a dopamine hit. We like that. There's something there. Or we're doing a puzzle and we get the answer. That's a dopamine. That lasts for, a very short amount of time, right? But with a sustained practice, you can actually, neural pathways can form and stick. Right? There we go. So here's a nerve cells, two different nerve cells, and they're connecting. And here's the synapse between them. And this is where the change happens, right? So there's electrical signals, there's chemical neurotransmitters, and that goes on, and we're not aware of that, right? And it's just an amazing, I love that picture. It's an amazing thing because that happens all the time, no matter what we're doing. So that's the opportunity, right, is for those things to create new connections. How does that happen with chanting? We have a total engagement with the sound. Now, I'm sensitive to sound, but we're hearing it, we're repeating it. We have to figure out how to repeat it because it's a new language. And it has to come out, and then we're always monitoring it, right? Is that what I wanted to do, right? Is that what and then it goes out there into the world. And we're feeling it as we do it, right? So our brain is in our body. It's not like our brain is mental out there in outer space. Our thoughts might be out there, but our brain is in our body. And it's connected to our nervous system. And that connects to everything. So after chanting, I've been doing it for a long time, every day, right? I feel it. There are times when I'm sitting and chanting, I feel the vibrations in my body, the ends of my fingers, my feet, up my spine. It's not an automatic thing, but you're totally engaged with your sound, right? And in the Hindu and Eastern traditions, not just Hindu, but sound vibration is considered the beginning of everything. Like everything is vibration, and sound is like the primal vibration. So it's very cool. Okay, Sanskrit. Oh boy, what about Sanskrit? It's very old, right? It's a Proto-Indo-European language, means a lot of languages stemmed off from that. There are branches of it, in many languages. It's energetic. The sounds in Sanskrit most of the sounds are not the sounds we use in our everyday English speaking, right? So the way we form those sounds creates different energy pathways. Okay. And as I said, it's an oral tradition, very old. How does Vedic chanting involve the brain? Okay, a lot of information. It's structured, okay? You don't just create and do whatever, right? It's a very structured practice. It's oral. You're learning new sounds, changing sounds that you may not ever have heard before. You're asked to produce them. New and changing pitch patterns.
Melody. There's no melody. It's not like happy birthday to you. We know that melody. We know the rhythm. That doesn't happen in Sanskrit chanting, right? All the rhythms are different. We have new rhythms. There are only 3 pitches, high, medium, low, middle, high, low. But the combinations of those can sometimes really trip you up. New physical patterns. Again, how do we produce our sound? The rhythm is totally irregular to our Western ears. And the rhythms can change all the time from line to line to line. Okay? Meticulous attention is paid to how the sounds are produced. So the teacher will constantly be listening and constantly, giving feedback. And you learn to give feedback to yourself. There's a standard, in other words, right? And the repetition is focused and engaged. Okay, so what do they say? What you focus on increases, right? When you focus on focusing, you can focus better. Right? So that happens. That happens with this kind of repetition. Okay, so it's clarity, right? Okay, so the alphabet, the Sanskrit phonetics are different from, as I spoke a little bit about that. Simply learning and repeating these new phonetics create new neural pathways, okay? So we talk about Sanskrit phonetics as opposed to the alphabet because it's an oral tradition. Phonetics are sounds, right? And when we produce the sounds in Sanskrit, they come from 5 different places in our mouth. The back, it's called velar here, but it's the back, guttural. Palatal. If you've come to chanting on Sunday, sometimes you'll hear me talk about this. Retroflex, tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth, right? Dental, tip of the tongue to the back of the teeth. Labial, the sound is from the lips. So this guttural is like top of the back of the tongue to the top back of the mouth, like in hung. We don't do that often when we speak, right? Hung is a good word, but not too many words like that. Palatal is like the middle of the tongue to the middle of the mouth, like onion. It's not the tip of the tongue, it's the middle of the tongue. Retroflex, tip of the tongue to the behind that ridge, right? And dental and labial. So we pay very close attention because there are about 52 phonetics in the Sanskrit alphabet, and they require this kind of work to produce them. I can chant and I can put a CD on with the Chalakari brothers, something I've learned, and I can chant with them. Beat to beat to sound to sound to sound, and know that it's exactly what they're doing. That takes some work. It's fun. Okay, so again, pictures of our brain. So the cerebral cortex covers both hemispheres of our brain, right? And we'll talk a little bit temporal cortex, temporal portion of that. Something's happened there, something's happened here. And then this showing that the cerebral cortex is covered with gray matter, and underneath is the white matter. Gray matter, again, is the processing information. White matter is the connection, right? Connection between halves of the brain. So just some more terms, I don't know. Okay, that's enough of brain stuff. So the process is called adhyayanam. Try saying that, adhyayanam. I mean, that in itself is, a nice little trick. So it's not a call and response process. The teacher says a phrase, Om Bhud Bhuva Suvaha, and then the students repeat twice, Om Bhud Bhuva Suvaha, back. And if it's not exactly right, then the teacher makes little corrections. Listen again, how to produce the sound. Okay, so it's a very, very meticulous kind of practice. And by doing that, you're forming new combinations, again, with different intricate rhythms, structured feedback, repetition, and your brain is always active, right? So because you're focusing on something, you're not focusing on everything else. Repetition is the key, one of the brain's most powerful mechanisms for learning, adaptation, and stability. Whether you're learning how to ride a bike
or a child is learning how to walk, or you're learning a new whatever, calculus. I mean, it takes practice, right? Right. Not for perfection. It just takes practice to do it. And that helps neuropathy. So I have a lot of brain stuff. The the center for hearing and listening is the auditory cortex temporal lobe. So that's back here on both sides of your head, behind your ears. Okay? So it breaks these signals apart. So we hear from your ear, and it goes up all the way up to the midbrain, all the way up to the cerebral cortex. There's the pathway of just hearing on both sides of the brain. Cool. Then the left side is more distinguishing one word from another. So remember we talked about learning music, and discrimination. This is the discrimination, right? You have to hone in. What are you hearing? How are you hearing it, right? And then the other side, the right side, is more suited for processing the melodies and the intonation. So both sides have to work together. Speech and language, again, the cerebral cortex in both hemispheres, different areas for speech production as opposed to understanding written and spoken language. So there's just kind of little places where those things happen. Okay. Hearing rhythm, again, the cerebral cortex, frontal cortex, temporal lobes. Memory, it's the hippocampus. It's a little further back. Right? So all of these things have to work together in order to be successful with this. Right? Okay. Then, how do we produce sound physically? What does it take for the sound to come out of our mouth? We have larynx, we have vocal cords, lungs, tongue, or our mouth, everything in our mouth here. And the vagus nerves. So vagal, what do they call that? Vagal nerve, vagal something. Polyvagal theory, thank you. It's kind of gained traction these days. The vagus nerve is connected to everything. Right. So there's the yellow, that's the vagus nerve. It's the 10th cranial nerve, and it has a connection right by the ear. It connects to one of the muscles in the tongue, and it goes all the way down to our major organs in the body. So that's important. Why is that important? Well, there it is connected to the tongue over there. Because that helps our parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. Right? So we have the sympathetic nervous system, which helps us, do things, and the vagus nerve stimulates the rest and digest. So when we chant and when we do other things, we're giving our system a break. Right? We're giving ourself enough time and enough space. Right? So the ear, okay, again, it just branches off from the main vagus nerve, innervates the external ear, etc., etc. Why is this important? Another study that was done with functional MRI imaging was done on people chanting Om. Okay, they chanted Om out loud, not silently. Okay, and it stimulates the ear branch of the vagus nerve. Now, I put a question mark for myself to remember. When we chant Om, you can say it, Om, we're not using our tongue, right? It's like one of the few syllables. Vowels you can use, you don't use your tongue, e, right? But Om, we don't use our tongue. So by chanting it out loud, the people in the study, they noticed that they were stimulating that vagus nerve from the ear, right? And just by doing that over and over and over again, they noticed that, they were calmer,
They reported feelings of being calmer, etc. So just that. In one of my classes last week, my teacher was saying, in this tradition of chanting, they do not sit and chant Om 108 times or 1,000 times. And why? And the answer was, well, that's not in the tradition, and it's for the people who live in the caves. They can go chant Om. They have all the time in the world. Because if we do that, we still have to live our lives, right? We have to get up and make breakfast or whatever, take the dog for a walk, go to work, right? The answer, but the real reason, after class, unfortunately, is when I came across this, is we are stimulating our vagus nerve so much when we do that over and over and over again, you're getting into a space that you don't want to get off the chair, right? You don't want to get out of that space. Or if you're laying down, you could fall asleep or just be in a different zone. So Om is a very powerful chant. And there are very good reasons for not doing it a lot when you have to drive home tonight, right? So I just thought that was very interesting. So it's like the ultimate puzzle, right? Crossword puzzles or whatever, Sudoku, whatever you do. But this is like your whole body and mind and brain are all working to solve this puzzle and to produce something, right? It's fun. And it's an oral tradition. So this is Devanagari, right? That's the Sanskrit that's been written down when it was when they codified it. Well, that's like a little bit asking too much, as far as I'm concerned. I want to chant. I don't want to become a Sanskrit scholar. Okay, other people are there, and that's great. So, International Alphabet of Sanskrit Transliteration. That's a godsend. In 1894 in Geneva, all the scholars got together so that they're using English and Roman letters, A, B, C, D, E, no F, but letters, and they put some diacritical markings to indicate certain things about pitches and how to pronounce them. So that's a real help. Okay, now when I see this, I see Luna. Luna's my cat, Tom's cat too. Right? But, we have to learn to read, right? Where's the reading center in the brain? Anybody have any guesses? We talked about the ear and listening and how we form things with our mouth and all that. There is no reading center in the brain. We don't come out. We don't enter this world with a book in our hand or a pencil. We have to learn that. We have to learn that, first of all, we learn that this is a cat, right? And then somewhere around 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, somebody shows us that this means cat, right? We have to learn the letters. Now, I'm not sure what the current reading pedagogy is, how they teach it anymore in grammar school, but we have to learn letters. We have to learn how to pronounce the letters. We have to learn how to put them together so that we can read. That's all of those things. So when I was growing up, my mom read to us a lot. Now I know why. First of all, it's a good thing to do. So you're inspired as a child. I want to read, right? I want to read more than just the pictures. She's reading something over there, and it's not just the picture. I want to know what that is, right? So there's that stimulus. But when children are read to, they learn to read, right? And then they learn somehow, whatever the pedagogy is, we learn at means cat, right? So we have to do this with our transliteration in Sanskrit. So that's like another pile of things that have to happen, right? So first we learn it orally, but we have the texts. I always have the text with me, right? Until it's something I've memorized, because it's impossible it's asking too much to memorize it. Okay. So there's the rules. Now this is like very complicated to read. These are Sanskrit words, varna, svara, matra. What does that all mean? Basically, we learn all of these through listening and repeating. And the most important thing is pronunciation, because pronunciation of the words gives you all of the other things. It gives you the intonation, it gives you the stresses, the accents, the pitches, if you're able to follow it along with the teacher, right? So that process, again, that adhyayanam process, right? Getting it out, is really crucial. So, Gayatri Mantra. Okay, here it is in Devanagari, straight from the Rig Veda. Okay? And here it is in a transliteration. Okay, so you can see. I mean, there's some things you recognize, other things are strange. What's that dot? What's that? What's that? What's going on over there? Okay, listen. Om Bhur Bhuvah Suvah Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Yeah, you probably can't repeat that right away if that's the first time you've heard it, right? And yet, this is the chant that over like 3.5 years ago, I had broken a stress fracture in my foot. And I heard this 108 times. And I heard people do this 108 times, right? So there it was in wildflower season, and I couldn't hike. I was sitting in the back with my leg up, in the boot on the, elevated. And my husband had to take the dog out for the walk. I couldn't walk the dog. I couldn't do anything. And I thought, I'm going to do this 108 times. Whoa. I was the poster child of resistance inside. All the stuff that was going through my head. I can't do this. Why would anybody do this 108 times? What's the point of this? This is stupid. I mean, this is not English. Like, why? What is this, like, people, like my teacher says this, I don't think so. And then what happens is that chatter just started to subside, right? And then it's like, oh, people have been doing this for thousands of years. Maybe there's some reason for that, right? Maybe they're just not saying, they're just not following somebody's orders. Maybe they're actually doing this because there's something there for them, right? So that was the big thing that got me kind of hooked. So this is like the most famous chant from the Rig Veda. It's in all the Vedas. There are 4 Vedas, by the way. And what does Veda mean? My friend Russell Paul, who wrote the book, has a wonderful explanation. Veda means to know. So these are like knowledge banks, as far as I'm concerned, like from the ancients, right? They're like humanity's gift to itself. Ved means to know. Not to know about, but a knowing that is direct, intimate, wholesome, and multidimensional. Vedic mantras, which we study on the broad stream of Shabda Yoga, combine sound, word, and meaning to generate flashes of intuition, spiritual perception, and poetic inspiration. Like, who doesn't want that? Right? Sign me up. So here's a couple of different translations of that. Okay, Tat Savitur, it's to the sun, right, who illuminates the 3 realms. May this divine light inspire and guide our intellects. Okay, here's another translation. Let us bring our minds to rest in the glory of the divine truth. May truth inspire our reflection. So there are different interpretations. The Vedas are poetic. They're words strung together in particular ways. There is grammar involved. But the translations, the inspirations for them, it's poetic. There's, when I first started learning, I said, I want to know exactly what this means. Like, I have to know word for word. And it doesn't make sense. You see the word for sun, and then you see the word for mind, and then you see like adorable, and it's like, and they're like not strung together in English grammar, and you're like, well, what is that? So the translators, there's a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of latitude, but it's poetic, and they're meant to be poetic. And they're meant to inspire that contemplation or, you know. But just chanting it has magic to it. So, another study was done, 2 more studies actually, in a pediatric journal. This one was published. They took school children aged between the ages of 11 and 15. They taught them the Gayatri Mantra. They were chanting out loud with their eyes closed. Again, out loud chanting, so you can get all of the benefit of it physically. And then they gave them some tests, some standardized tests, and they showed that they had spatial and verbal memory score increases just by chanting the mantra. And along with improved memory and concentration. So decrease in anxiety among school children, that's huge. Huh? And increase the synchronicity of cardiovascular rhythm. So I don't know if you're aware of Heart Math Institute, you know, it's like just making sure you're in sync, right? And you know, those were measured, those were measurable. Another study was done. They took 45 young athletes. The mean age was 21 and a half, men. So why athletes? I think because they assumed a certain amount of physical, you know, robustness. Right? Again, they taught them the Gayatri, chanting out loud, and they showed the same, you know, the same results. So just by doing that one mantra. And you know, I have a theory about that because when you learn the letters in Sanskrit, the Gayatri mantra includes like almost like all the categories of the sounds. So you're stimulating all the different parts of where the sound is produced. Yeah. Okay. Did I? Okay. Great. So, sorry. So we start with curiosity. Then we learned something because we were curious. Job well done. There's a dopamine hit, huh? Right? It's fun. Serotonin, right? We're getting all the chemicals. So enlightenment, the brain and the body light up together just with chanting. You know, I did yoga. I mean, I do yoga, like physical yoga, and I've done it for decades. But I never felt as much in my body as when I've been doing chanting. Yeah. Fun, huh? Again, it's the process, right? Here's another explanation. Sustained engagement with mantras through correct listening, recitation, correction, repetition, and reflection. It requires steadiness and attention, cumulative effects. It refines your attention, steadies the mind, and gradually reshapes the practitioner from within. Right? Because all of that works together. It's all physical. It's not mental brain stuff. It's very physical. So we have a total engagement with sound. We're immersing ourselves in the sound, and we're producing the sound. We're totally focusing on listening and, you know, reproducing the sound. And by doing that, we're integrating all those different parts of our brain, right, and our body through the vagus nerve. It's truly an integrative practice. One of my dear chanting friends, she just tells me, you know, Peggy, I just love wrapping myself in the sound when I'm chanting. That is so healing to me. And that's like the most beautiful thing. You know, like, what more can there be? Maybe it's not going to cure my arthritis, but it's going to do a whole lot more. So, presence. I'm not one too much for the iconography. I would rather chant. Plus, I think I grew up with a lot of religion, like until about the age of 18. So, you know, praying to this picture or whatever it is, like, doesn't really do it for me. I can appreciate it, you know, but my connection with the gods and goddesses and all, you know, the pantheon and all that, it's not something that's easy for me or necessary for me. Like, I don't choose to go there. However, Vishnu is all pervasive, all pervasiveness. And you know, I've learned the Vishnu chants some of the Vishnu chants, and Narayana is another name for Vishnu. And this all-pervasiveness thing just kind of sticks with me, like Vishnu, and I would never, like, my teacher would show these slides with pictures of Vishnu, and I'm like, I don't even know, like, I couldn't tell if that's Vishnu or Shiva or I don't know, But that sense of all-pervasiveness kind of was working on me, on the inside. And after doing, the Vishnu Suktam for months and months and months, and then I chant something else, and then come back to it, and those syllables, and then it's familiar, and it's like a spiral. You start here, you learn the basic fundamentals, the sounds, you learn how to repeat them, and you chant it, and then you do something else, and you come back after a little while, and it grows on you, and it grows in you, and then all of a sudden it's like, I get it. That Vishnu, that's me, and that's you, and that's everything else that I don't know about. That's all pervasiveness. Like, that's it. And that's what we do. That's why we do it. So that's our joy. Consciousness. Consciousness again, it's very similar. We want a connection with something, right? We want a deep connection with ourselves, with our own awareness, with our own consciousness. And these Vedas, all the knowledge in there and the translations in there, they all point to that. That consciousness is this consciousness, right? So it's a unity consciousness. It doesn't mean that there's not differentiation, right? Not individuality, but it's it. And the cool thing is they're now thinking consciousness. For years, the neurologists and neuroscientists were looking in the brain. Like, where's the consciousness? Where's the awareness center? Where is it? Like, we know where hearing is. We know where, all that stuff. But now they're thinking that the consciousness is in our cells, in like microtubules and some some molecules in there. In other words, it's all over. It's not one area. It's not in the amygdala or somewhere, It's us. It's what we are, right? And it's what that is, whatever that is, right? So it's just a very cool thing. I want to share something else with you, because sometime in this process, over the last few years, I was chanting Gayatri Mantra in the morning, 108 times, and I came out of that, and I just, there's this creativity that sometimes pops out, or some, this alertness, and as I was chanting, I was going in and out of like, which part of this is me, right? So I just wrote this little thing here. Who is this I, right? Am I the one who breathes in? The one who forms the syllables? Am I the one who gives voice to the mantra? The one who vibrates from the skull to the feet? Am I the one who's listening? Or the one who hears? Am I the space of this resonance? Am I the devata, or the cosmic energy that this mantra invokes? Or am I simply a drop of cosmic joy? There we go. Purna is the word, means completeness or wholeness. But I prefer infinity. Because when we say completeness or wholeness, it assumes form. Right? Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for coming. Leave it with that. Yes.
Do you have resources? I think I learned the Gayatri Mantra not quite accurate. It was just repeating,
I think I have it on my website.
Oh, it is? Okay, so you have a website.
I have a website, Peggy Sound Therapy, and you go to the Vedic Chanting, and that is one of the chants that I recorded on there.
Are there dialects? Like, do people dialects, different dialects?
I wouldn't say dialects. I would say people take liberties
Okay.
with how they pronounce. So you'll hear Gayatri Mantra. I mean, Deva Premal. I mean, all these famous like artists are doing Gayatri Mantra. There's doorbell ringing. You can have a Gayatri Mantra and doorbell on your phone. I mean, you can have it all over. But probably not like this, because this is, they make more appealing tunes to our ears for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So chant a little bit more for us.
I need some water. Yes.
I just had a couple of questions. Would this information be available on your website too? Or would we be able to ask for a copy of your slides?
Thank you for asking that question, because this has been a process of putting this together for weeks, until I finished it this afternoon. So it's not like it's a finished thing. But I'd be happy to share it with you if you put it on next to your email address that you're interested in the slides. Make a little note, and I will send it to you. I'm not going to send it to everybody because it's not,
I think they record every class.
Oh, that's right. Yes, thank you. It'll be on the YouTube recording for RVML.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to ask you, so as ancient as this is, there must be a way for a person who's deaf to access this. Do you know anything
Wow,
about
that's a great
what if a
question.
deaf person wanted to learn chanting?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't know that I've heard anybody talk about it. I suspect that there are resources out there. I don't know what they are.
What about a bone conduction?
Yeah, I'm thinking like more with the vibration, but
Yeah.
then, I don't know if they could. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
I'm not
probably.
sure
I'd be
how
curious to
they
learn
would
more.
produce the sound. I mean, I really have no
the
knowledge
three
about
pitches.
that. Yeah.
I think it's really like we're showing around them.
Hmm?
Great question. Yes.
If I were to learn one of them would be the Gayatri Mantra, what would the other two be that I...
Well, the Purna Mantra, the last one, Purnamadaha, is a great one.
Okay.
The Maha Mrityunjaya mantra is it's a very healing mantra. Do you know that one? I can chant it.
How does it
Jerry,
go?
do you want to chant one with me? No, I don't want to put you on the spot. It's not too long. Listen. Om Triambakaya Jamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityor Sorry. Triambakaya Jamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityor I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Well, we wouldn't know.
Thank you. It's telling us that we want to basically give up things and just connect with that part of us which is everlasting.
And those are on your site as well, the other two?
Mhm.
Oh, perfect.
I believe so.
I'm going to get to it.
If it's not, I will put them on there.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Can you talk about some of your offerings beyond
So-
this class?
Yeah, so I am putting together a class. So I teach at Ali, but the Ali people are going to get a little bit of this, probably not as in depth as some of the chants. But I am putting together a foundations class that will teach the phonetics and then some of the more intricate basic chants, for lack of a better word. In the Ali class, we do a lot of the japas, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Ganganapataye Namaha, those shorter ones. And then we do Gayatri. But then I also will be teaching, I don't have the location nailed down yet for this. So that's why I'm asking if you're interested to put your name on my email list so I can get information to you about that. Monthly, I do mantra meditations at the Jacksonville Public Library, and that is just the shorter mantras. I bring singing bowls, and in between the mantras, you'll hear the bowls, and then we go into silence. And then we do the next mantra, and then you'll hear the bowls, and then we go into silence. The bowls really help us, our brain waves settle down, so that when we go into silence, you're really in silence. So that's monthly, and it's not a regular Sunday each month because it depends on the availability of the library. I have one coming up this Sunday, and there's a flyer out there. And we meet from 4 to 5:15 p.m. And the next one will be February 8th, and the one after that, March 8th. Beyond that, I haven't set up the times yet with the library.
You mentioned heart math, and
Yeah,
what was
Heart Math Institute. Yeah.
yeah, and what was the connection? Or?
It was they measure heart rhythms, and there's something about that which is really emotionally very calming if you get in the right steadiness. Or I don't know too much. I mean, my brain is here right now, so I can't speak to that in depth. But yeah,
I was taking this mini course online with Oprah Chopra a few years ago. Oprah Chopra, Deepak Chopra, and Oprah
okay.
did a chanting, a series of chanting free demonstrations that one could use to achieve various things like inner peace or overeating, that kind of thing.
Right.
What do you think about the practicality of using it for that?
So that's like prescriptive chanting, and I'm not so much into that because I think all chanting is healing this way. If you're doing with the attention and going through this process. There are different energies that can be accessed with different, for instance, Rudram, this long chant about Shiva, that's a very energizing chant. That you're getting into some rhythms and that's energizing. Even Gayatri, you do it a lot. It can be very energizing. There's certain things you don't want to do at the end of the day, right? Certain things are better to do at the beginning of the day. But as far as, if you have, if you're depressed or if you have addiction issues, I mean, there are people out there that will give you chants for that, and I don't go there. I think I don't know that was the intention of the Vedas, right?
So
they
it's
want us
kind
to
of
have
like picking and choosing rather than learning the whole discipline. It's picking and choosing.
Kind of, it can be, yeah, and it's it's catchy in a way. It's like, maybe if I just chant this, then I'll be okay. But I have to say that chanting helps me with some situations where I may not feel comfortable. Or for instance, if I have an appointment coming up and I know it's not going to be a good one, or it's like something I don't want to do, or I have to engage in some way that I'm really not looking forward to, I chant before that. And it's just like, I'm good. And I can express myself in a way that's communicative and I'm even. There's a lot of equanimity that can come through chanting. And those are things that are, I think, important to me and most important, as opposed to, am I going to cure, the arthritis in my feet or fix whatever, I don't know.
In your research, I know that we're focused on Sanskrit. Were there any other studies with other languages besides?
I don't know.
Because I thought that would be interesting. Like, why should we do it in Sanskrit?
Right.
As
Well, I mean,
opposed to English? I don't know.
Well, the Sanskrit, I think it's more challenging for Westerners.
Yes.
And that's part of it. That's part of the huge brain work is learning to chant in Sanskrit. That's huge, right? Another chanting friend is learned Hebrew as a young person. She doesn't know it anymore, but she used to read and write Hebrew, and so she remembers that, right? But for her, the Sanskrit is just more energetic. you know. And it could be that whatever her early memories were, she's reaccessing the same neural pathways, and that doesn't, it's not doing it. I don't know. Maybe Sanskrit is doing it.
Thank you.
There's a book called Prayers of the Cosmos, and it's the words of Jesus Christ that are in the Bible, like the Beatitudes and some of the more famous prayers, but they're in the Aramaic, and so it will have the Aramaic at the beginning, I guess phonetically, and then it will talk about all the different shades of meaning, and then it will go into like chanting that prayer, chanting it in Aramaic. And when you were talking about Sanskrit, and when you were talking about like those three different interpretations of that concept or that, you know, phrase, it was all about that, how Aramaic was like not at all like Greek, because Greek would have very distinct, you know, translations and, you know, more clear,
Very
like
specific,
one meaning,
yeah.
you know, but Aramaic would go have different shades of meaning. And so I just wondered if you'd heard of that book, because I would like to learn more about chanting in the Aramaic.
I haven't heard of the book. Is it something, do they have it on tape or something where you could hear the chants?
I heard that lately someone else was reading it and said that there is a place like somewhere
Online or
something
yeah.
where you can learn how to actually enunciate
Yeah.
them. But
Yeah.
the book is called Prayers of the Cosmos. I wouldn't be surprised if they have it here somewhere.
Probably. Could be. Yeah. Well, that sounds interesting. It sounds, you know, similar to us as Westerners. You know. And all those languages, you know, I saw a chart once where, you know, the old Vedic Sanskrit was kind of on top, and then you have all the branches off of the different languages. The Iranian was on this side, and then some of the other Arabic languages were on the other side. So I don't know what the division was in the middle, but the offshoots. And then on this side also was like some of the Slavic languages. You know? And you know, there's a word in think of the word heart, right? Our word heart in English. The Sanskrit word for heart is hrid, H-R-D, hrid. Now, how similar is that? It's very similar, hrid, heart. I mean, like the same letters practically. So there are many things that kind of come down through the languages like that, which is, you know, I think it stimulates something in our DNA. I do, you know, like we all come from the same, you know, pool, gene pool. Any other questions?
I have one.
Yes.
I had chanted casually and enjoyed it, and then I noticed at other times chanting was like the whole energy in the room switched, or the connection was direct to the source, which I had never expected could happen.
Yeah.
And so that was like an eye-opener. Like, I was like, this stuff is real.
It is real. And chanting in a group, in a room, is also very energetic. You know, our energy changes individually when we're in a group with people all chanting the same thing. And you may not know anybody else in the room, but you're just chanting together. Yeah.
As you did your research, looking at the brain, I know that I've heard like there's theta, there's different states.
So those are brain waves.
Does this chanting play a role in any of that? Or?
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you for asking. Because it lessens our, you know, we're generally in like an alpha state, is like a creative state, we're awake and all that. And then it gets down, you know, there's alpha, there's theta, down, delta, gamma, right? So our brain waves slow down, and they do. There are other studies, you know, that measure that, and they show that happens. So that's another way of calming those thoughts, right? Our brain it's not working that fast. It's like it's working this fast, right? Yeah. And sound is that.
Thank you.
So there's a YouTube station or YouTube
Yes.
metaphysical.
RVML. This will be on. How long does it take to get them up? Do you know?
It should be about within the week.
Okay.
Yeah, he's usually pretty quick about it.
Okay. Great. Yeah. So check the website and then
So I have a question. I mean, I noted in your kind of bio and that was on RVML and such, and Pegasus, the sound healing, gets mentioned. And I guess I'd like just a little more elaboration. I mean, I'm just fascinated with what's showing up as what we are as electricity, vibration, sound. So obviously there's responding to these sounds, these syllables, or from wherever it comes from, that heals. I would think of every cell has its own song. I mean, and we have trillions of cells. So, at times you're landing into particular cell bodies and energizing them in way. I mean, I think it's just we're really going to find out that we're just these electromagnetic beings that just respond to, vibration, resonance, sound, all of that. Yet we've been programmed not to be that responsive to that. These words that I'm just forming right now actually are having an impact, on others listening, on others' cells like that. That's something that we're just opening up to the depth of.
And I would suggest that it's not even program, it's a kind of a desensitization because we are bombarded with so much.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because to go back to Sanskrit, which is really one of the original really sounds, we would say, is fascinating because it is like returning to source, where there's been a lot of noise that has occurred called language since then. But there must be something in those syllables or how you're forming them, or like you see this impact that shows up in your body.
Right. So when you learn the phonetics, and they're guttural, you learn the first sounds in like almost every language. You just drop your jaw. That's it. And then a little longer. So these are very human sounds, that very natural sounds. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you to Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library. Oh, thank you. I know there was a lot of information, a lot of slides, and I, even cut a lot of slides out because there's just there's no end. Thank you.